Hello, lovely students. Once again, I'm with you, and I'm recording this video as the second video at the same time we recorded the first one. But it is not much different from the previous one, so I thought it record at the same time and upload it later. I mean, part by part, so that the video would not go longer. So, in the previous video, we had a look at the percentages, and we did percentages regarding other goods and services, and how both Japan and Malaysia spent. And I also explained to you guys how you should try to write these things in a proper way when you write the summary. Now, when you look at the first category, your starting point was with other goods and services, and the points which you must keep in mind are these. Number one, you should see if the percentage increased or decreased. I mean to say, if Japan spent 29% on other goods and services, this percentage increased or decreased. We saw that the percentage decreased by the percentage was less, 3% less than the Japanese budget. Now, if you are going to talk about the next, or whenever you have to discuss the next point or the next category, you must keep in mind this thing, that if the next percentage is also in the same way, I mean to say, if Japan spent 29% and Malaysia spent 26, of course Malaysia was 3% less than Japan. Now, when we talk about the next category, we have to keep in mind if the percentage of Japan is less or more than Malaysia. If the why I'm emphasizing on this point, if the percentage of Japan is once again more than Malaysia, then you will be using, before you start the next category, in the same way, similarly, not with much difference, means you have to use this type of connectors or connecting words. Otherwise, some students, the category is the same. Of course, Japan is more than Malaysia, but they say contrary to that. So you must keep in mind that contrary to that should be used only when the category or the percentage of category is different, is opposite to the one you first explained. For example, if Japan was 29% and Malaysia was 26, if in the next category Malaysia is 26 and Japan is 29, then you should be using opposite to this or contrary to this or contrary to that. I mean, the one major mistake is this as well, which shows lack of understanding of the data given, that you use connecting words in a bad way, in a wrong way, actually, in an incorrect way, and it also lowers your band. So the next category we will be doing is, of course, the same as I said now. Now, in the next category, Japan is less than Malaysia. So now you cannot use similarly, in the same way, or likewise, or not with much difference. You shouldn't be using this, because if you look at the pie chart, Japan is spending 21% and Malaysia 34. So once again, the same thing. It is written in. It has to be written in the past because the data relates to the year 2010. But now there is a difference, and you must keep in mind that your bands always improve when you describe the differences in a nice way. If you do not describe the difference in a nice way, it means you do not have enough knowledge or enough grip on grammar to describe these things. Now, if you look at the next category, which is housing. Now, housing, Japan spent 21% of the budget on housing, which is of course a nice budget. You can write Japan spent great amount or a lot of amount on housing, and you can write within bracket 21%, or the other way you can say 21% of the budget was spent on the housing by Japan in 2010. I mean, in my previous video I discussed both these languages, active language and passive language. So passive language can also be used, and active language can also be used, but the main thing you must keep in mind, never mix up the tenses, because the data was collected in 2010 and it relates to 2010, so you shouldn't be doing it in the present tense at all. Now, Japan, you should say 21% of the budget was spent. You should never say Japan spends 21% of the budget on housing. Of course, there is no mistake if you say Japan spends 21% of the budget on housing. There is no grammatical mistake, but the budget was spent in 2010 and it should be described as an activity that was done in the past, not now. So you should be, the proper way would be 21% of the budget was spent on housing by Japan in 2010, or the other way you can say Japan spent also a huge part of the budget, which is 21%, on housing. But here I would like to talk about one thing more. We have already used the word spent already, so we should avoid using the same words again and again, because this thing also lowers our bands. Now, you should use some nice synonyms, like you can say disbursed, Japan disbursed, Japan drained, Japan used up, or depleted. There are many other words you can use, but you shouldn't be repeating the same words again and again, again and again. I mean to say, repetition is very harmful and very dangerous, and it lowers your band. Keep in mind. Now, Japan is less and Malaysia is more, and in the first category you described, Malaysia was less and Japan was more. So now you should be saying opposite to that, or opposite to this or that, show the previous category. It means you are pointing to the previous category you discussed. So you can say contrary to that or opposite to that. All right, and then you should put a comma opposite to that, comma, 21% of the budget was spent on housing by Japan. Now, 21% of the budget was spent on housing, or the other methods I talked about. You can also use those methods as well. Now you have to compare it with Malaysia. Now Malaysia, as we can see, has spent 34%, which is much more than the Malaysian budget. So here you have to use comparative language. Of course, I will make a different video on comparative language, but here I have to use, so you should be careful and listen to me very carefully. When we have talked about the budget spent by Japan, now we be moving to Malaysia. So we will be saying which is far less or much less. Okay, far less or much less than the Malaysian budget, or than the budget spent by Malaysia, and you can write in the bracket 34%. So this would be the nice and very attractive way you can use. All right, and of course there is another way we can do. Malaysia spent much less money. Japan spent much less budget. You can write 21% in the bracket than Japan on housing. Housing was Japan spent less. Japan less spent or disbursed or depleted or drained. Japan depleted much less amount compared with Malaysia on housing. Now, when we see their expenditure in the same sentence, at the end of the sentence, you should be writing 21% and 34%. It would clearly show your nice understanding of the data given. Thank you very much once again. I hope so. Things are now clear to you. If things are not clear, we will make them clear. There are many ways we can make them clear. But of course, in such a short video, it is very impossible to cover all the aspects. But I'm trying my best to bring the things to light, and I hope so. You are learning. Thank you very much, guys. Keep in mind the next categories of the same chart, the same pie chart we are doing are different, and different formulas will be used to explain those categories. So wait for the next video. Hope to see you soon. Have a lovely and safe life. Take great care of yourself. Thank you.